It's time now for the Life and Times of History's Greatest Horror Movies Slashers Abridged Survival Guide with Ali and Jay.
Today's subject, Ricky Chapman, or Caldwell, or whatever. Garbage Day! There, we got it out of the way early. Deal with it.
Little Richard What's-His-Face was born sometime in the late 60s in Utah. On Christmas Eve 1971, the Seas are out and about when a lunatic dressed as Santa Claus kills Ricky's parents. So he and his older brother Billy are sent away to an orphanage where they spend the rest of their childhoods at the hands of abusive nuns, namely Mother Superior. That's how Ricky pronounces that, evidently. Billy moves out when he turns 18, and because Ricky wasn't there when Billy did whatever he did from this point onward, there'd be absolutely no reason for us to go into any of it in great detail. So, long story short, Billy goes nuts after being a toy store Santa Claus. By the way, judging by all the vintage Jabba the Hutt playsets in the background, this all takes place around Christmas 1983.
Must resist urge to wear Slave Leia cosplay. Billy eventually heads for the orphanage, but he's shot to death before he can punish Mother Superior. The orphanage shuts down, and traumatized little Ricky gets adopted by a Jewish family, so Christmas stays off his radar for a long time. But raising the boy is still a challenge on account of his PTSD-induced seizures and violent impulses caused by the mere sight of the color red.
Despite all that, life is actually pretty good. That is, until his stepdad dies when he's 15 years old. I think. Okay, here's where the timeline gets messy. According to Ricky himself, he's 12 when the family adopts him, which is immediately after part 1. But the end credits for part 2 say this kid is 10. But in those same end credits, when it gets to the actor in the archive footage from the ending of part 1, it says he's 14. And then, teenage Ricky in part 2 is supposed to be 15, but he's quite clearly played by a frickin' 30-year-old. So, I have no clue how old Ricky is supposed to be at this point in time. Just for simplicity's sakes, we're gonna ignore his age, lest our brains explode from overthinking this.
Ricky takes a hike one day to cope with his grief and happens upon some dude forcing himself on his girlfriend. So Ricky flattens the f*** like an inbred hitchhiker. I guess murder gives Ricky's life the oomph that he's looking for, and by 18, Ricky kills a loan shark and a rowdy loudmouth in a movie theater.
And it's by now that Ricky has somehow gone full slasher mode. He's got superhuman strength, doesn't sleep, and has really spastic eyebrows.
Things get even better for Ricky when he starts dating the chick with the man's legs from Friday the 13th 7 and even loses his virginity to her. Ricky, Little Miss Man-Legs, and her ex-boyfriend run into one another, and Ricky learns that she wasn't a virgin when they started dating? Uh-oh. Ricky kills them, steals a cop's gun, and goes on a shooting spree. But the coppers arrest him and take him away to the funny farm.
And if I've done the math right, on Christmas Day circa... he gets interviewed by Grand Moff Tarkin and tells him literally everything we just said. Ricky escapes, steals a Santa suit, and heads to Mother Superior's house to finish what Billy started.
Then the cops show up and they shoot him a few times. He survives, so they pump a dozen more rounds into him before literally blowing his brains out. Some hospital takes him away for reasons and surgically reconstructs his brain, leaving him comatose for 6 years.
He went from a barrel-chested 18-year-old beefcake to Lobot in 6 years? I know we've already established that Ricky's age has the consistency of the X-Men movie timeline, but jeez! Anyhow, Ricky's hooked up to a dream scanning machine alongside a blind psychic orphan whose job is to report what Ricky dreams about so as to study his brain activity.
La 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 la.
Laura goes to her psychic grandma's house for Christmas, but Ricky has a thing for her, I guess, and wakes up, embarking on a whole new killing spree. It certainly doesn't help that a dude dressed as Santa Claus happens to be in his room when he wakes up. You'd think Ricky would take the costume for the road, being the killer Santa and all. Nope.
He somehow makes it to Grandma's house before Laura and has dinner? Horror movie. To be fair, Grandma bites the dust when she gives Ricky a red present. With her out of the picture, Chop Top sits around waiting for Laura. Why the f*** does this stilted bastard even want her so bad? Because she's hot? She is pretty hot, so maybe?
Yeah, but who cares? It's time for the ultimate showdown, and I'm excited for it, because if there's anything Friday the 13th Part 7 taught us, it's that slasher versus psychic fights are always good. So are you ready for this one? Oh my god, holy cow, this is intense. Ricky trips over nothing and falls on a pointy stick. He's sent away to the ICU where he meets a fate much worse than death. He turns into Clint Howard. It's debatable whether or not parts 4 and 5 are connected at all to the other 3, but it's a dude named Ricky in a Silent Night, Deadly Night movie, so screw it. Yeah, I know Ricky's watching part 3 on TV in one scene, but that really doesn't mean squat when Ricky watches part 1 in a movie theater in part 2. So, for the sake of a retrospective, let's say Ricky survived his stick injury, got a new cranium, learned how to talk again, ended up a foot shorter, and got discharged from the hospital, leaving him homeless and roaming the streets of LA in search of half-eaten cheeseburgers.
One night, he sees a woman spontaneously combust and jump off the building as part of a sacrifice for a ritual held by a cult of lesbian witches. Merry Christmas!
Ricky gets hired by the cult to be their muscle. Yeah, that's what you call Clint Howard for. It's like asking Bill Cosby for dating tips. Speaking of which, he's sent off to stalk a journalist named Kim for reasons that aren't relevant to Ricky's story, so who cares?
When they finally get their hands on Kim, Ricky shoves a giant maggot up her belly button and cuts a rat over her stomach. After which a giant centipede crawls out of her mouth, which Ricky then cuts in half and spills its guts all over Kim's face. I'm sorry. But what does any of this have to do with Christmas? I know it takes place during Christmas, but that doesn't warrant it being a Silent Night, Deadly Night movie.
You wouldn't call Gremlins Silent Night, Deadly Night 6 when elves go naughty. Though they should. Ricky suddenly has a change of heart because reasons, but the witches stab him in the gut.
But alas, Ricky does not die in vain, as Kim kills the head witch with puppet hands that set her on fire or some I don't f***ing know. We're here to talk Killer Santa Claus, not gay wizards or whatever the f*** this movie is about.
But by way of a Christmas miracle, Ricky actually survives and finds work as a mall Santa in Studio City, California. And he's normal as Clint Howard can be. He's not triggered by the color red, his eyebrows aren't spazzing out, he's not chasing blind women. It looks like Ricky's finally got things figured out. We don't know what happens to Ricky after this since he only cameos in part 5, but I like to imagine he snaps after seeing a nun, grabs an axe, and goes police story in full Santa gear.
Maybe someday, baby. Maybe someday. Fat f***ing chance. Anyway, that's the life story of Ricky Chapwell, or at least Ricky plus some dude who may or may not have been Ricky. Maybe?
Today's
Hey there, Eric Freeman, Silent Night, Deadly Night 2. And this is to my friends Allie and Jay. And this is for all those little cheapskates that love that cheap little cartoon you're watching, where every day is garbage day. Take your garbage out, I'll see you in the alley. This is Eric Freeman. See you later.
What he said.